Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast. Now, way back in December 2019, a whole 10 months ago, life was much simpler. But Mark Banfield from LogicMonitor came on the podcast to talk about how performance monitoring will continue to play an important role in business growth. But for most business leaders listening, they now have even more tech problems to deal with, because the COVID-19 pandemic accelerated a change already well underway in the customer experience. Namely, the digital experience is now inseparable from the customer experience. And effective business strategies now rely on seamless customer experiences. So with all that in mind, I invited Mark back onto the podcast to discuss what this means and what the future looks like in a post-COVID-19 world, and how effective monitoring is increasingly essential to maintaining that digital customer experience that we all expect as standard now. So buckle up and hold on tight so I can beam your ears all the way to Cornwall today, where Mark Banfield is waiting to speak with us now. So a massive warm welcome to the show, Mark. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, hi Neil. My name's Mark Banfield and I'm Chief Revenue Officer here at LogicMonitor. So I'm responsible for, if you like, the revenue part of our organisation, which is obviously acquiring new revenue, new annual recurring revenue from customers, from the various range of different customers that we sell to, and then really maintaining that revenue. So providing, great account management and, looking after customers the best way we can so that we maintain that revenue and grow that revenue. So within that, of course, incorporate sales, marketing, channel and alliances, and the various sort of sales and marketing operations functions that go along with that.
Now, of course, we last spoke in December 2019, and that was a time where all the futurists and analysts were predicting what great things were going to happen in the new year, 2020, a new decade. The world was a very different place then. And I'm curious, how has your life at LogicMonitor changed this year? Because there's so much that's occurred that nobody could have predicted.
Yeah, it's been a interesting year, to say the least. I mean, for me personally, I split my time pretty much between North America, Austin mainly, and Europe, London mainly, and would spend most of my time in those locations and then travel to customers and various other offices from there, often down to Asia Pacific as well. And of course, that's completely changed. Of course, now there's no travel. I haven't traveled anywhere since March. And I would say that our business, the internal running of our business has changed in so much as we're not in offices and we're not interacting face to face, but we've been able to really pivot and be able to work almost as normal because we're a business that's pretty much digitally transformed. So we relied already very heavily on SaaS-based solutions. Zoom was a big part of our business, and everything about our business was already fairly digital. So it actually wasn't that difficult for us to start working remotely and enable all of our employees to work remotely. So that's sort of within the business. In terms of our customers, we definitely saw an impact very early on when COVID hit. There was a lot of concern, a lot of fear as to what was going to happen in the market. And we definitely saw sales cycles lengthen. But overall, actually, since then, our business has performed really well. So we've actually seen some of the best performance we've had in the last few years in Q2 and Q3 this year, where I think what's happened is organizations are relying upon LogicMonitor more than they ever have done before to navigate the current challenges with the COVID pandemic.
And what would you say have been your biggest challenges, and how did you overcome them this year? Because it sounded like really you guys were in a much better position than most, but is anything that particularly stands out for you?
No, so working in terms of the general running of the company, the working within the company, the biggest challenge was just, how do you carry on motivating and getting people focused like you would do through a lot of face-to-face interaction, but doing it remotely. And we've been able to do that through a variety of mechanisms, through the type of way that we run the cadence in the business, the way that we do meetings, the way that the regularity of communication. Communication's a key one. So that's sort of on that side of things. In terms of with our customers, one of the things we did very quickly is realize that, LogicMonitor obviously monitors critical IT infrastructure for all kinds of different businesses. And the IT infrastructure's been really strained for a lot of businesses as they start to shift to work from home and have people start to be able to access via VPN and use Office 365 more aggressively and use tools like Zoom and video conferencing more expansively. So we really quickly started to build dashboards and capabilities to allow our customers to monitor those environments better than they were able to before. And that's one of the ways that we've been able to overcome the challenge of what our customers are challenged with and give them solutions that are really valuable to them.
And one of the things that really stands out, I think, is that the COVID-19 pandemic has accelerated a change that's already well underway in the customer experience field. In fact, also in every area that you can think of right now, in every industry. But can you tell me a little bit more about how the digital experience is now almost inseparable from the customer experience? It's like those lines have just been torn down, haven't they?
Yeah, and you're absolutely right, Neil. And I think that this was a trend that was underway already. No matter what kind of business you interact with, either as an employee or as a customer of a brand, your expectations these days are that the interaction that you have is a digital interaction, and it's seamless and it's easy and it's a valuable experience. And I think that what's happened with the pandemic is it's really set apart the businesses, the sort of haves and the have-nots. And the businesses that have flourished in this current crisis have been the ones who have been able to very quickly be able to digitize and continue to provide that digital experience, which provides a great customer experience. I mean, if you just think about the number of businesses that overnight were unable to transact and operate in the way that they would normally used to, and the ones who have done well, of course, are the ones that were already digital. So digital transformation, whilst it's a kind of has been a buzz term for a long time, I mean, it really has shown this sort of last 6 to 9 months has really shown, just how important it has been for those businesses that were digitally transformed have really flourished much better than the ones that haven't.
Absolutely. And one example that really shines is Primark, of course, which went from 650 million revenue a month to zero within a month, which is just unbelievable. And there's a lot of other companies as well that possibly were sat on the sidelines thinking it was a nice to have, but now obviously have got to make a big change. So I appreciate this is a big question, but where should a business begin when creating an effective business strategy that now relies on that seamless customer experience?
Yeah, it's a good question, and you're right. I mean, I think there's a lot of businesses that are probably maybe kicking themselves that they didn't implement or innovate quicker. I think there's a couple of things businesses can do. I mean, the first is to really create a comprehensive strategy for digital customer and employee experiences. So, and that sounds very simple, but it's really important is that you look across your entire business and you understand what elements of your business can be transformed digitally and can be improved from a digital approach. I mean, Primark may be a good example of a business that could and perhaps wish they had gone to online earlier as opposed to not. And, those businesses, many businesses have flourished as a result of having online experiences. The second area is to employ a perceptive monitoring of the infrastructure that supports the digital experience. And this is really critical because even businesses that had already gone through that transformation and already digitized many aspects of the customer and the employee journeys, they've also struggled with sort of unforeseen load on their infrastructure from places that they perhaps didn't experience before. So shifting to a work from home or shifting to huge usage on their online platforms has put strain on the IT infrastructure, and therefore it's really put strain on the monitoring systems that underpin that infrastructure. And that's obviously somewhere that LogicMonitor helps organizations a lot. And the third is embracing forward-thinking automation technologies. So really what's critical in this current climate, in this current situation, is not to be reactive to resolve issues when they occur, like outages, but actually being ahead of the curve and identifying issues before they happen, having visibility in advance, and then automating that so that you can ensure that things are taken care of, issues are taken care of before they become major business damaging issues.
And if we look back a few years ago, there was the original disruptors of Airbnb, Uber, Alibaba. Of course, none of them had stock, hotel rooms or vehicles. And I think a lot of businesses were inspired by that and realized that they had to disrupt or be disrupted themselves. A lot of lessons were learned. And then, of course, this year, everything shut down and everyone's being forced to learn those similar kind of lessons. So I'm curious, how do you see everything that we've talked about today coming together in a post-COVID-19 world? Because presumably things are going to be very different again, aren't
they? Yeah, I think that, people keep talking about the new normal. Yeah. And certainly I think most people have got a little bit used to the new normal. And I think the expectations have changed, and the demands of both employees and businesses, but also their customers and consumers has changed. And as a result, moving forward, I think it's set a new bar to what the expectation is when it comes to digitization. So I do think that, we're going to just continue to see an acceleration. I mean, cloud is a good example. Most businesses have been going through cloud transformation and transforming their business and their infrastructure towards cloud. I think what we'll see now is that will happen even quicker. It is happening even quicker, but it will continue to do so. I kind of think that in a post-COVID world, I think that the table stakes are much higher when it comes to digitization. I think the expectations are just higher.
So true what you're saying there. And of course, we're also in the holiday season at the moment and approaching things like Black Friday, and a lot of businesses and retailers are going to be desperately trying to recoup some of that revenue that they've lost throughout this year. And I think we've seen over the last couple of years, you've got like Macy's when they go offline on a Black Friday, that can cost them so much money. But on that side of things, can you tell me a little bit more about how effective monitoring is also essential to maintaining that digital customer experience?
Absolutely. Well, the IT infrastructure world has changed dramatically over the last 5 to 10 years. And, with so many different types of technologies being implemented by organizations and different types of infrastructures, IT teams, frankly, have been struggling to cope when it comes to maintaining systems and maintaining a high quality of service. And when an IT infrastructure fails, downtime's imminent. It can have a real damaging effect on an organization's bottom line and to their customer experience. And of course, if you think about us as users of, ride sharing applications or, food ordering applications, there's many of them now. So you sort of delivery of food at home, any of those types of, if you just think about your own use of those applications, if you're unable to access those applications, unable to get a taxi delivered or unable to get food delivered, the user will just switch to a competitor almost instantaneously. And not only do they lose revenue and customer loyalty, but, their brand is, really, really damaged. I mean, and of course, in the social world that we live in now, people are more than willing to write whatever they like about a brand. And as soon as you have system outages, then, of course, you really hear about it immediately in social media. And that's really damaging for a business. So it's really essential to monitor using a very comprehensive, broad monitoring capability that allows you to monitor every aspect of your IT infrastructure and be able to understand the performance of all those different aspects of the IT infrastructure. And then it's also important to really use an AI approach so that you're using AI ops to identify anomalies that are happening in the infrastructure, identify things that don't look right and calling them out and being able to identify them before they become major issues to your network and stopping you from operating as a business. So modernizing your monitoring is something that we talk about, and most of the people that we sell to will talk to us about the fact that they are able to modernize their monitoring stack by moving to LogicMonitor. Because we're a SaaS platform, so we deliver a very easy to deploy, very sort of quick time to value solution. But we also have this approach, this sort of agentless technology, which allows us to monitor. We monitor more than any other monitoring vendor. So we have more than 2,000 different types of technologies integrated into the platform. So we can pretty much monitor anything. And even if there isn't something we can monitor, IT operations teams can extend the capabilities of the platform, either through a store that we have where we publish different monitoring packs that other customers have built, or we can build it for them, or they can build it themselves. And that's one of the flexibilities in the platform. It's a much more modern approach, which means that they're never without coverage of different aspects of their environment. So that means that they're always on top of understanding what's happening in their IT infrastructure, which means they're always ahead of the curve. And then we have a really strong AI ops approach, whereby we have things like dynamic thresholds, anomaly detection, where we can very quickly understand the root cause of a problem quicker than any other platform, and then resolve that outage, resolve that issue before it becomes an outage. And we do that through automation. So we integrate with things such as ServiceNow in order to create a seamless experience through to making sure that a ticket is an alert is turned into a ticket in ServiceNow, etc. So that kind of whole modern approach to monitoring is something that we're really pushing into the market, and it's really helping our customers to be able to navigate the current situation that they're in with COVID.
And another problem for businesses is that it's more important than ever to ensure that their applications, their tools and services are all available for their remote workforce. So what are the biggest challenges that your customers are coming to ask you for help with right now? And I'm curious, are there any trends around that? Are they all coming to you for asking the same questions?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the big ones has been sort of productivity tools. So monitoring, as I mentioned, things like Zoom, any other kind of unified communication solution, monitoring tools that their employees are using at home, such as Office 365, any SaaS-based application. So, and of course, the interesting thing about that is monitoring a tool like Zoom or monitoring any kind of SaaS application isn't just about monitoring the specific SaaS service itself. You also have to monitor all of the different aspects of the environment and the infrastructure that make up that service. So, for example, the underlying network, right down to the switches, need to be monitored in conjunction with monitoring the SaaS solution, so that you can understand the full picture to see where exactly the issue is coming from, so that you have full visibility and having all of that in a single pane of glass, so that you've got complete access to all that information, is really critical. So that's how we've been helping customers. We have one customer is a major university, one of the largest in the world, one of the most famous universities in the world, and they were able to almost, I would almost say overnight, transition to online learning and being able to deliver classes via Zoom remotely. And that was one of the things they've said to us, is that they couldn't have done that without the use of LogicMonitor. LogicMonitor was instrumental in being able to set up those services for their employees and their students, and also be able to monitor the service so they can ensure that they can continue to provide that high quality of service. So it's been a really big differentiator for them
So what's next for LogicMonitor? I appreciate there's probably not too much you can share, but is there anything you can share?
Yeah, it's a couple of things. So obviously what I've talked a lot about here is IT infrastructure performance monitoring. And that's the heritage of LogicMonitor, is where we've come from, is deeply ingrained in understanding every aspect of IT infrastructure. And that goes from monitoring on-premise environments, server environments, storage, virtualized environments, network, right through to the most modern environments such as cloud and microservices, serverless. So we can monitor almost the metrics from almost any different type of environment. And of course, those metrics will allow us to understand the performance of any different type of IT infrastructure. Where we're moving to is really to create an observability platform. So in about 5 weeks from now, we're releasing a new product called LM Logs. And so what that is we acquired a company called Unomaly at the end of last year, and that gave us the ability to analyze log data in a really innovative way. So it analyzes log data by building up a pattern of what normal looks like and identifying anomalies that are happening in the log data. So the things that look out of character, the things that don't look correct. And what we've done over the last year is spent time integrating that fully into our SaaS-based platform, so that from in a single pane of glass now, we will present to the IT operations practitioners log data that is associated with alerts that is anomalous. So it means that for an IT team, they're able to very quickly identify the log information, the log data, the specific log files that are associated with a particular alert or a particular issue. Now that's really compelling, because today what we found from learning from our customers is that the way that they use log data today is a sort of hit and miss, and very often they're flying blind and they're unable to see the log data that's associated with a particular alert that's happening in the infrastructure. So as a result, it still may take them, and whilst LogicMonitor will notify them of an issue, in order to really get to the root cause, they need to see the log data, because that's really telling you exactly what's going on. And today, most of our customers will tell us that that can be a pretty laborious and lengthy approach, where they have to go and dig into other tools and look for information. And of course, we're taking that away by just bringing all that information into one place. That's the first big advancement. And the other thing we're doing is the sort of like the third pillar of observability is then tracing, or application performance monitoring. And that's something we're working on. We haven't got any release of that right now, and it's something we will be talking about in the months to come. But that's something we're heavily working on. And of course, once we have that, then you have the metrics that come from the infrastructure, which of course is our heritage. We're very good at the log information that now uses an AI approach to be able to identify logs that are relevant to issues happening in your infrastructure. And then the last area will be the actual issues that are happening in the application. So the tracing through the application. So when someone clicks on a button on an application or a website, the sort of tracing that transaction through and identifying where the issues occur is going to be the last sort of piece of the jigsaw for us. So a lot of big things happening for LogicMonitor in terms of the actual product, and that's the way that's evolving. Some of the other things we're doing, of course, is just continuing to grow our go-to-market. So we have offices, a number of offices across the US now, and that's obviously a big part of our business. It's still the bulk of our business is out of North America. But our EMEA organization has grown, significantly. It's nearly 100 people in EMEA now, up from just 10 people, as little as 2 years ago. So significant growth in EMEA, and starting to span out into other markets in EMEA. So we have an office in Stockholm now, not just in London, but we have people situated all across the region, and we're actively working on putting offices in other locations as well. And then Asia Pacific as well. We've had some really great success recently in Asia Pacific, mostly from our Sydney team, which has done a fantastic job into the Australia, New Zealand market, but also now really building out Southeast Asia. So we just made a hire of a VP of APAC that will start in a few weeks here who's based in Singapore, who's got great experience of developing the APAC region. And you can expect to see a lot of work happening from us moving into different parts of that region as well. So yeah, some pretty exciting things happening for us.
Fantastic. And for anyone listening that would like to find out more information about some of that cool things that you're working on, or just contact your team if they've got any questions, what's the best way of doing that?
Yeah, there's a number of ways, Neil. I mean, first off, obviously, our website is a wealth of information. We just actually launched a new website earlier this year, and there's a ton of great information and resources on there that you can learn about LogicMonitor, but just learn about the market in general and understand how customers are navigating some of these challenges. There's great customer testimonials on there. There's great blogs on there. There's various information on there that you can go and research and watch and listen to. The other thing, of course, is to contact us. I mean, we have offices everywhere. As I said, reach out to the salespeople. You know, you can, by all means, anyone listening, send me an email, mark.banfield@logicmonitor.com. I'd be more than happy to respond and, get you in contact with the right people. Like any SaaS business, we're really absolutely obsessed with customer success. So, for us, the journey only just starts once we sign up a customer. The customer journey is critical to us. So we have a lot of investment in the various things that help our customers build their use of LogicMonitor and therefore build their business, their monitoring business. So, there's the LM certification program, which is LogicMonitor certification program, the LogicMonitor University. There's various training that's available. There's user groups. There's a customer advisory board. There's a ton of different ways that people interact with us once they become a customer. And of course, there's a lot of great resources there. So by all means, reach out, please. And if you want to learn more about how we can help organizations modernize their monitoring to cope with today's challenges in a COVID and post-COVID world, then we'd love to talk to you.
Well, I always say at the end of every episode that technology works best when it brings people together. And what I love about what you guys are doing here is you're expanding what's possible for businesses by advancing the technology that's behind them, which is incredibly cool. And the world has changed so much, though, in the last nine months since we spoke. And no doubt it'll change again, but I'd love to get you back on the show in 2021. Who knows, maybe the aliens will come. I think that's the only thing that's not happened. I look forward to chatting with you again in the future. We'll do it all again. So thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, Neil. Very much appreciated. Thank you.
As I said in that interview a few moments ago, on Black Friday, if any retailer goes offline, even for a matter of minutes, it could cost millions. And equally, if any business goes offline at any time, there's a whole army of remote working staff that are unable to work. So a big thank you to Mark for giving us a very timely reminder of how effective monitoring is essential to maintaining that digital customer experience. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on this and how you or your organisation are managing that expectation. As always, email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com. My website is techblogwriter.co.uk. Keep your messages coming through, because it's your expertise and insights and feedback that make this podcast what it is. So keep those messages coming in. I'll speak to you again tomorrow with another guest. But until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.